I have for you today one of the sickest stories in American politics in months. A store owner was shot and killed with a gun because she displayed a pride flag, an LGBT pride flag that someone did not like. We are talking about tragic and senseless is an understatement. We're talking about the tragic and senseless death of 66-year-old Laura Ann Carleton. Here is an NPR report. California store owner shot and killed over a pride flag displayed at her shop. Killed Friday by a man who objected to an LGBTQ plus pride flag displayed at her clothing store, according to officials. San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputies responded to the Mag.pi clothing store in Cedar Glen, California, around 5 on Friday. There was a report of a shooting. And when police arrived, they discovered the victim, 66-year-old Laura Ann Carleton, suffering from a gunshot wound. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect, who was not identified, fled on foot. The man made, quote, several disparaging remarks about a rainbow flag before ultimately shooting her. Deputies later located the armed suspect, who was confronted by deputies and was himself killed in a, quote, lethal force encounter. No deputies were injured. And of course, now we have all of the backstory of Laura Ann Carleton, known as Lori, who was killed. This is where we are in the United States of America right now. And as I mentioned, on the bonus show today, I'm going to talk about a lot of the things I observed during my trip to Spain over the last couple of weeks. And this particular story of someone bringing a gun to shoot a woman because he doesn't like her pride flag and the message of inclusivity that it refers to. This is one of the big areas where when you leave the US, you realize so much of our culture is broken. Yes, there's so many other things, small things, medium things, but this is one of the major things. Our culture is broken. We are talking about shining a spotlight on hate and intolerance and violence, and yes, gun safety as well. This is about all of those things. And on the one hand, it's okay to acknowledge, we should acknowledge, quite frankly, that if you look at the last 30 years, there has been significant progress, both legally and culturally, when it comes to something like LGBT equality. It's crazy we still even have to talk about it. And what I mean by that is, I would love it if we didn't even talk about LGBT equality and equal treatment. And it would be great if it just wasn't an issue. It is, but we've still made significant progress. And then you see the mere completely benign display of a pride flag outside of a store, leading to a fatal shooting. And it starkly illustrates that this battle is far from over. I wish we didn't have to talk about it anymore. When we're dealing with climate and economic injustice and inequality and all of these different things, it would be great never to have to utter another word about how this battle has not yet been won when it comes to LGBT equality and just respect. But we simply aren't there yet. And this is yet another one of these stories that illustrates that. And it is crucial, obviously, that we condemn the act of violence that came from intolerance and prejudice. These are hate crimes in the sense that there was one person shot. Lori Carleton was the one person shot. But when you see this, it rightly sends like a shockwave of fear and anxiety through the entire community, the LGBT community, because you have a pride flag, which is, let's be honest, you might not like it, but it's about acceptance and unity. That's what the pride flag is about. It's not a provocation to violence, and yet someone was so triggered by it, big burly man, right? Triggered by a flag, that he goes out and he shoots someone. And so when we have incidents like this, we have to understand that, I've said this before, and I don't even love to talk about this, but I have many liberal gun owning friends. And I've said before, I just don't talk about my relationship to guns personally. I talk about what I think gun safety regulation should be. But let's make it about friends of mine. I have many liberal gun owning friends who say, I want this for self-defense because I don't want the right-wing nuts who will do violence because Trump lost, who will do violence because they see a pride flag, not people in control of their emotions. These are not rational people. I don't want them to be the only ones with the firearms. And so you have a left wing that, yes, we champion gun safety regulations. We must have them. We fight for them. And also there are growing voices within the left wing that say, hey, we don't want these right wing nuts being the only ones with the guns. And it is sadly a race to the bottom. I acknowledge that. And I think my gun owning liberal friends acknowledge that as well. So on the one hand, we advocate for the gun safety regulations. On the other hand, there is a growing movement that says if they're the only ones with the guns, that's a very scary situation. So this story reminds us both of the circumstances that are pushing more and more people on the left to get firearms themselves, which, by the way, you might buy it for self-defense. It could end up being used against you. That's a classic story. There could be an accident with the firearm that you bought for self-defense. You or a loved one ends up injured. This is not a solution, okay? It seems to be a stopgap that many on the left are looking at. But also this story is about gun safety. Now, we don't yet know, or at least I haven't seen, the particulars of this individual, the perpetrator's gun ownership, legal or illegal, and things in his past which may or should have precluded him from having firearms. It's not about the specifics. But obviously, all of these stories are about gun safety regulations as well. A disgusting and depressing vignette of the cultural problem we have in this country where people see firearms as a way to solve interpersonal problems, of the triggeredly nature of a lot of these right-wingers who they see a pride flag and it's so upsetting they go and shoot someone. It's a reminder of much of what is wrong in this country. Let me know what you think about this. You can find me on Threads, leave a comment. Honestly, guys, I don't know that I'm ever going to mention Twitter again and say follow me on Twitter, which is now X. The platform's been ruined. I read that during my vacation, Elon Musk said he's going to take away the ability to block people. It's 95% unusable for me at this point. If I can't block people, I have thousands of people blocked who just want to harass me. It will become 100% unusable, and then that'll be bye-bye. But more on Twitter or X at some other point. We'll take a quick break. It's so good to be back. So much to talk about today.